Not a disaster. This is going to be fantastic.
It's going to be awesome. I'm so excited.
I am so excited, actually. What's happening, party people? Welcome to Punchboard Party. My name is Daniel. This is Father Greg. And we are doing something that I have not done at all during the lifetime of this channel, which is just over a year. And I am so excited to do this with my good friend, Father Greg. Father Greg, what are we doing?
We are doing our top 100 games of all time.
Of all time.
For 2022.
That's right. We'll probably do it again next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. But of all time, that's for 2022. And so in this video, we're going to be doing our 100 to 91, and both of us have our own 10 games we're going to talk about.
Yes.
And we're going to just obliterate one another mercilessly about our picks, I assume.
For sure.
Yeah. Because I assume you won't be happy with any of my picks.
No, they're all straight garbage.
We actually like similar games, I think.
There will be, I suspect, at least 30 games, maybe more, that will be, shared between our lists.
We're going to have crossovers.
Yeah, for sure.
I wonder if we're going to have crossovers on the same list, like on the same 10.
I doubt that. Well, maybe.
And if we have, ultimate crossovers.
Exact same number?
Yeah, we should do something to celebrate that. Probably, a flying dropkick or something.
Wow. Okay, sure.
But you do you do the drop kick. All right. Well, I can't show you my whole. I gotta keep this. He was peeking.
I wasn't.
So who should start? We didn't talk about any of this.
No, that's fine. You go first.
Okay. So starting with my top 100 game, my 100th favorite game of all time. We're talking about Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
Okay.
Have you played this?
I have not.
Okay, so Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig is kind of a re-implementation of Between Two Cities, both Stonemaier games. And basically what you're doing is you have tiles, just square tiles that represent different rooms in a castle. So there's basement rooms, and there's activity rooms, and there's kind of kitchen, pantry, sort of craftsman rooms, and each type of room scores points in a different way. And basically what you're doing is you're drafting kind of a met full of tiles around the table. But then on your turn, you're going to play two of those tiles from your hand. One to a castle to your left and one to a castle to your right. And so you have a partner to your left and a partner to your right that you are collaborating with to build a castle. And your lowest score at the end of the game is going to be your score.
Right.
And so it's this really great mechanism of trying to really invest equally into two different projects while collaborating with two different people. And ultimately, you kind of know eventually what you're going to do on this castle and what you're going to do on that castle. So it doesn't have the same level of, oh, come on, let's do this. Eventually it becomes clear the kind of strategy you're going for based on the room types that you're going for. But it's still just a really clean drafting game. A really clean, slick situation. And I think what really bumps this up for me is just the variety of room types that you're dealing with and how they all score based on what they're next to, or have minus points based on what they're not next to, or are next to as well. It's just a lot of variety. So that is my number 100.
Do you feel like this is more like
Ludwig.
Between Two Cities or Castles of Mad King Ludwig?
You know what? It is the perfect marriage of those two games for me.
Okay, sounds like it.
Because, Between Two Cities I didn't like because of the different sized buildings, and there was just a few things they did that it felt samey. And I really like the way the scoring works in Castle of Mad King Ludwig, and so they really kind of put that right into this nice drafting game.
Interesting.
It's probably my favorite between the three games.
Well, my number 100, he's going to talk about a lot later. I can almost guarantee this game will be in your top 10. That is Elysium.
Wow!
So Elysium is my number 100.
Only!
Yeah, super game. Great little game. Features a lot of really interesting mechanics. A lot of you got these 4 pillars, and you can only pick cards from this kind of central area, and you also pick like your starting position tile with these pillars, and you pick a tile and you have to get rid of a pillar, and then the cards go into like this top section where they can actually do stuff for you, but then you can later on put them into the Elysium, to the bottom section where they actually score you points. So there's a lot of like interesting mechanics, I think. A lot of interesting things that I haven't really seen too many other games do, at least not in that way. I think it's kind of dependent upon the different card sets that you use. Like if you use like the Hephaestus cards with the Neptune cards or whatever, you can get kind of some interesting, maybe some less like balanced or less fun sort of combinations. But I really enjoy it. I know you're going to talk about it more, so
yeah. Well, it's funny because it is essentially a drafting set collection game. Like at its core, like it's a very simple concept, but the way it does it with these colored pillars and having to remove a color every time that you draft a card, and so then your choices are more limited. Like it's just a really brilliant way to do something quite simple. So you're right, I will talk about it later.
That's great.
So my 99th, Cartographers.
Ooh.
So Cartographers hits the list a little lower than I expected it to. Should mention we use PubMeeple like everyone else has been doing this year to create our lists, and I've tampered with my lists a little bit, Father Greg not so much.
Yeah, I pretty much just put the games in and saw what popped out.
Yeah, I felt like a couple of my games I hadn't played quite enough to warrant keeping them on the list, so I kind of moved some other stuff around. But Cartographers, basically what you got going on is you're flipping a card over, it has a certain polynomial shape of a certain terrain type, and you draw that on your map. And then there's scoring cards, and they're going to be asking for particular combinations or adjacencies of these different terrain types, or sizes of terrain types, or these kinds of things. And you're basically drawing these polyominoes in order to fulfill the most points as you can. But the scoring works really well, where in the first round you're scoring the A and B cards, then the next round you're scoring the B and C, and then the C and D, and then eventually the D and A. So the first scoring card you're actually scoring twice. And so you're kind of trying to build into that, but you're also kind of looking ahead to build into the other scoring cards. But you kind of want to stay in the now as well for what you're going to score this round, but you want to prepare for later so you can score big. It's a really nice push and pull that you got going on in Cartographers. So Cartographers, really great game and suitable for a lot of audiences.
I do like that scoring system, that idea of that there's only certain cards that score certain rounds, and so you're kind of, do I go for what's going to score this round, or do I kind of look ahead? That's, I think, a really interesting mechanic. My 99 is a very small, light game, and that's King Domino.
Okay.
King Domino's a lovely little kind of tile drafting game. You just build like a 4x4 tile kingdom, and you score points based on each type of terrain. And you just, but it has an interesting thing where like, the numbered tiles are like weighted in terms of like what's a better tile. But if you pick like a better tile this round, then you're going to go later on in the next round. So the kind of like seeing a tile that you really want, but then realizing, oh, by the next round I'm going to, go last in turn order. That's an interesting kind of choice. It's just it's a simple game. It's easy, it's light, but
quick.
I like King Domino.
Yeah, no, I like King Domino a lot too. King Domino, great little game. And just that simple little twist to make it something. That is good. That is good. Bruno Catala, my man.
Is that Bruno Catala? I didn't even know that.
My man. You didn't know? Bow to him. Okay, sorry. You're a priest. You probably shouldn't do that. All right. So by 98, a game that you already admitted fell criminally off your top 100 list. Mangrovia.
Okay.
So Mangrovia is this kind of under the radar, underrated game from Elif Svensson. He's been doing a lot of stuff lately. Like he's the Magnificent. He's Santa Maria. Okay. He's like he's kind of carved his own path now. But this is an early design of his that I really enjoy. Basically, this is kind of like area majority on a grid. Like it's a very simple game, but basically what you're doing is kind of Ticket to Ride style. You're drawing cards and you're using these cards. So you have number cards and you have terrain cards. And so then the numbers, you can add different cards together to reach a certain number, and each square on this grid has a terrain type and a number. And so you play some numbers, you play the terrain card, and then you can place one of your huts on one of these squares, and basically you're looking for rows and columns to complete, and then you get points based on how well you do that. But the really neat thing for me that makes this game sing is there's this rondel action selection mechanic down at the bottom of the board.
That is good.
Where there's a boat that goes around your boat. You put a bowl. You put a bowl on an action. And basically what you're doing is you're selecting two actions. You're selecting an action that will activate when the boat goes on one side, and an action that will happen when the boat gets to the other side. And so normally it's kind of like an early action that's pretty good, and then late action that's like all right, you know? And so you're trying to get that perfect balance of an action that's really going to benefit you on both sides. And I think that's just a really neat, slick way to choose action selection. And of course those let you build huts, and there's also these little like decorations or like merchandise tokens that will get you points that you can pull out of a bag, and they just allow you to do different things. But I really like that way of action selection. So Mangrovia, check it out if you can find it. It's worth playing, and it has that kind of thrilling ticket to ride, like hunting for cards.
Yeah, if it had not been for you, I don't think I ever would have ever even heard of this game.
That's fair.
It is like very hard to, like, nobody ever talks about this game at all. So
No.
it is it's a little hidden gem.
Yes.
Mangrovia for sure. Cool. My 98 is a dice kind of drafting sort of manipulation game set in sort of like a D&D universe, and that is Role Player.
Hey, here it is.
So Role Player is a game where if you... I've sometimes played a few games of D&D, not many, but I've played a few campaigns, and the best part of every D&D campaign is creating a character. That's like the best part. It's like
That can't be true.
Oh, it is.
There's a bunch of DMs right now being like, what? What do you mean?
No, man, the best part is like, you know, creating this character, like learning about their story, like, you know, figuring out who they are, and that's what Role Player is all about. There are some expansions later on that kind of lead you into like actually going on like missions and fighting guys, but the basic game is good enough, and it's just creating a character. You're rolling dice, so you're trying to get, you know, high numbers in particular areas. Like if you're an orc, you're probably going to need a lot of strength, and if you're a wizard, you'll need lots of wisdom and stuff like that. And then you have like this backstory, so you have to try and like move this little kind of cube in this grid to try and get it to, like, if you're supposed to be a guy who's kind of evil, then you have to get him onto one side. If you want to be chaotic good, you have to get him onto the other side. And so there's like this different, I don't know, just the system of like this dice drafting. You get these little items that you can like equip to your character, like robe and shoes and swords and stuff like that. And it's just, I don't know. It for me, it conjures that best part of D&D, which is that like kind of just imagining that like, oh, I've got this character, and there's something that's happening, and I'm creating their story, and I really like that aspect of it.
No, that's awesome. It's a neat little game. It's really great. Yeah, no, good choice. My number 97, I don't think you've played this. This is Aeon's End.
I have not.
Aeon's End. So this is a cooperative game, so you might never play it. I don't know. Father Greg doesn't enjoy cooperative games. He's not a team player.
I enjoy mercilessly hurting other people. Yes.
That's right. So Aeon's End, it's this great theme where there's all these sort of mages in different stages of life, like new mages, retired mages, blind mages, all sorts of craziness. But basically, there's these breaches and these creatures that are coming through these portals and trying to get you. And so basically, the game is kind of this big boss battle where there's this monster coming through this breach and sending his minions through the breach, and together cooperatively you're just trying to equip yourself with crystals and magical spells and throw them at this big bad as they're getting harder and harder to defeat as you go. And the thing that I really enjoy the most about the game is that on the kind of main board there's these breaches, and they turn in different directions as you try and close them, and it makes the game more difficult, or gives you more abilities that you can use or more advantages depending on how the breaches kind of turn. And so it's this kind of race against the monster as you're like trying to shut things down as it's kind of ramping up and making things more difficult. And the deck building, it's a deck building game, is just a really slick deck building mechanism where the cards that you get, you put on the top of your deck. So you're going to see them in the very next round. So it's this neat sort of way to, you're going to benefit from your purchase right away. And then you keep on going from there. But neat cooperative game, Aeon's End. Kind of surprised me. That kind of cooperative games aren't always my favorite either, but this one is pretty good. You should try it sometime.
Yeah, I've heard about it, but I don't know anything about it. So cool. My 97 is a game that we just played not that long ago. It's not a game from this year, but an old game that I finally got to play. It's been on my want to play list for some time. And that's Cyclades.
Hey!
I really like Inish and Kemet, both in that same sort of series of games. And so Cyclades was the only one I haven't played. This kind of set in the kind of Greek mythology universe. You're going around. You're trying to conquer different islands from different players. There's a little bit of hostility. Like it's a direct confrontational game, like all the other ones are as well. But it's a great game. Just you get these different gods or different monsters, like I don't know, the big swamp thing with the tentacles. It comes out of the water, and there's just all these. I don't know. It's just a really good game. I really enjoyed playing it.
Although a major complaint is that we had no idea how to use these monsters. The rules are terribly unclear about like how long they stay on the board and like if you can use them continuously or if they just go away after one turn and the way that the rules read makes it seem like you don't really get to use them. They just kind of put them out there and if it happens to do something great and then put it away. But like that can't be the way they play. So it's just that was confusing to me. But yes, I agree with you. Bruno Catala, my man. It's good.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's just fun to I think we had some. There was some confrontation that we maybe didn't realize we were going into, sort of playing that game. But once you kind of settle into that, it's like, okay, this is great.
What I really like about it is that your goal is really simple, where you're trying to build like 2 or 3 metropolises. Mm-hmm. So you have a very kind of clear goal that you're trying to achieve. And you're seeing as other people are getting close to that goal or not. But then there's a couple of other sort of side ways that you can kind of sneak the victory, similar to in the Seven Wonders with like getting the Seven Wonders Duel, where you get the sciences or you get the military or whatever. You can kind of collect these other cards and sort of sneak a victory that way. But I just really enjoy just the kind of pure dread as someone is getting close to the victory. And then their dismay as someone just cuts in and just destroys their opportunity to win the game. And then another person just wins next turn. Like my wife. My number 96 is Guillotine.
Whoa! Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Coming out of nowhere.
Wow.
Coming out of nowhere.
I think this is like 330th on my list. That's amazing.
It's only because a bunch of church officials are getting their heads chopped off.
That's
you
true.
Don't like it,
That's true.
So this is just a silly card game set in a kind of like French Revolution time. So a bunch of people are getting their heads chopped off, and so you have a row of noble heads. There's like 12 cards laid out in a row, and you are trying to collect the most valuable heads. And so basically at the end of your turn, if a card is at the end of the row that's close to the little cardboard standing guillotine, you collect it, and that's going to score you points. And there's a little bit of variety in like some cards will score you points for how many of that type of card you have. But by and large, they just have points on them. And a couple of them do a couple of abilities to the line, but by and large the heads are just the heads. But you also have a hand of action cards, and these action cards are ridiculous. Like if you don't like randomness in your games, forget this. Like just don't bother. But if you like fun, then you should probably play this game. Because like the cards are like move a noble card 2 spaces forward, take the whole line and reshuffle and deal them back out again. Like you can just do a lot of things to mess with the player's next turn. And because there are cards that are worth minus points, so you're trying to get them away from the end of the line when you're about to draw a card from there. And so just a lot of fun, just like, and you don't have to play an action card, so you're going to draw one at the end of every turn, so you can kind of build up a bit of a hand and then kind of go hog wild later on. And so Guillotine, it's just a fun, simple kind of 3-round card game, 15, 20 minutes, a good time. I just really enjoy this game. So it made my list.
I do enjoy the kind of silly macabre theme. It is a lot of fun. It didn't make anywhere near my top 100, but it's a fun, enjoyable time for sure. Okay, my next game, 95. 96. Sorry,
96.
Is a game that Dan got rid of, and I bought it from him. And that is a game called Asara.
And I'm so sad.
And Asara is just...
And you know what? I forgot to put it on the Pub People thing. It would have. It would have.
You'll have to go back. You have to kick something out of your 80s to make room for it. Anyway, so Asara is you're building towers. You're building these long, tall towers that ascend into the sky, and you're kind of it's sort of a
much better than Ferenzi. Frank Ferenzi. Oh my gosh.
You're building these. You're trying to build the highest of each colored tower, but you're also trying to build the most towers in general. And so there's kind of like this majority, kind of two different ways where you're trying to build like one tower really high, but also trying to build lots of like smaller towers and try to compete. And it's a very simple game. You just have like a hand of cards, and when the spot is empty, like anybody can put a card there, but then if somebody else wants to go there, they need to play the same color card or like
how the action selection works in this game is brilliant.
Yeah, it's
just that like leader and then follow the leader mechanic. Mm-hmm. Oh, so good.
And so yeah, it's just very simple. You put a spot there, you buy a piece of the tower, you put a spot there, you get gold, and it just works really, really slick. It's a nice game. It's an old game, and it was. I think it won the Spiel des Jahres.
No,
or maybe it was nominated.
It was nominated.
Way back when, but same thing is not a game that is talked about at all. But
it should be
a really nice gem.
It's very good. It's very good. I am heartbroken that I forgot about that game. My 95, Sushi Go.
Nice.
You know what? I tried to avoid it. I tried, but like it kept on coming up, and I just kept clicking it because there's something nice about just like card drafting at its core. Just like there's nothing to this game. It's just draft hand cards, collect sets of different types of sushi. There's like 5 different in the original game. There's like 5 different things that you could possibly go for. It's not complicated, but it is just a lot of fun. There's something. Your heart leaps when you get a hand of cards that have the cards in it that you need. It's just a fun feeling.
It is. Great game.
Phil Walker Harding. There he is. I won't say praise be because that's blasphemous.
Amen. But it's great. No, I have 2 friends who got married, and they had just a bunch of board games at their like wedding reception, so people could just pick up. But they had a ton of copies of Sushi Go there, and there was one table that I could tell that somebody was like they were really new to board gaming, and they were like a little bit like I don't know what I should play, and I was like, let's play Sushi Go, and I just pulled it off the table, and man, it was a great time.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever had a bad game of Sushi Go.
You know what? I don't think so.
And have you ever played Sushi Go Party?
No, so I've only played just the original little tin.
Because the party is interesting too. It just gives a little bit more options, just a few more, a little bit deeper strategies. But
yeah, and I think I would enjoy it.
Both are solid.
And I've been really excited to try Sushi Roll. Have you tried that?
I have not.
Yeah, so that I like me some dice.
Right.
So that's my number 95.
Cool. My 95, a game that I see in your collection, and that is Dixit, a little party game. Beautiful artwork, just really kind of a weird like artwork that's not it's unclear, and that's kind of what makes the game great. You're not really sure exactly what you're looking at. It's not just like a teapot. It's like a weird shaped thing in the woods, and it features like amongst the party games. It does something which I think a lot of games have since used, but that kind of idea of you want to give a clue, but you want it to be something that some people are going to get, but not everyone's going to get. There's kind of like you want to make things clear, but not too clear, because if everyone guesses it, then you get like no points. But if only some people guess it and some people get fooled, then then that's how you score. And so just a great party game. I'll often bring this out at more fun events, and it goes over well.
Well, the thing about the game is that, like, as soon as you start setting it up and, like, handing out cards, people are just the awe factor of the art on the cards. Because it's so weird and quirky but good. And so people are just enamored with, like, what is this? And so, like, even if you're not having fun with the game, you can still just have a good time just looking at some cool art in your hands, right? So it really does have a staying power.
Nice.
Yeah, I like Dixit. 94. I don't think you've played this.
Okay.
Millennium Blades.
I have not.
Yeah. Oh, this game. This game is really good.
Okay.
I didn't think I was going to like it because it's real time. I hate real time because I just feel slow.
Okay.
Real time. Is that how you call it?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And it's sort of replicating the kind of like tactical card game thing, which I'm also not a big fan of. But like this game, it's just such a beautiful thing. It's a beast all on its own. So there's basically like 3 rounds, like 3 tournament rounds. And before a tournament round, you're going to go to the local card store, essentially, which is represented by a bunch of decks of cards.
Right.
And you have money, and you're paying for money, and you're opening up a pack of cards, which is basically drawing a card and seeing what you get. And then you're able to trade cards with the other players that are there. So you're doing this whole, like, open up, see what you get. Oh, I got this. Do you want this? But, like, you have, like, whatever it is, like 10, 20 minutes on the clock, or probably less than that, where as soon as the clock runs out, that phase is done. So you're, like, frantically buying things, buying cards, looking at what you got, seeing what other people are getting, trying to trade to ultimately make sort of like a row or hand of cards that's going to do you well in the tournament phase. And the tournament phase is a fairly simple card game where you're basically putting you have your hand of cards now that you're going to use, and you're kind of playing them in a row, and they're going to score points based on kind of what they're beside or how they're comboing with the cards that are in your row. And it's not really complicated, and it works really well. Really slick way of doing that because of the timer factor. You can't think too hard about what you're accidentally giving to people. You can't dilly-dally and trying to like calculate exactly what other people are how they're going to benefit from the trades that you're making. So you really kind of got to guess that as best you can and then just keep going. And I just really love the thrill of because what I like about it is other real-time games, like something like Magic Maze or something, other people are waiting for you to hurry up. Like, they're like, do your thing now, go, go, go. And, like, you have to cooperate and you're laying people down. Here, you're just laying yourself down if you don't trade fast enough.
Right.
And it gives you enough time to do some things in that phase. Really enjoyable, worth a shot. Millennium Blades, that's my 94.
I didn't realize this was a real-time game at first. I just heard it was a board game about a TCG, and I was like, that sounds weird. I don't know what that means, and so I never really ever bothered looking into it any further than that. But I'll have to try that. You maybe convince me to
it's
give
cool.
that a shot. Cool. My next up is by far the most complex roll and write or flip and write or any of write I have ever played. And that is Hadrian's Wall.
Here it is.
Hadrian's Wall is. When you try to explain this to someone, oh my gosh.
It's brutal. It's the most brutal speech in the world.
It's so hard. It looks terrible because there's 2 sheets before you, and there's so many boxes that have to be filled. And
Spreadsheet the board game.
It is like so intense. But as a solo or like just a game where you don't really want to talk to anyone around the table, this game sings. It just like I'll open this game up all by myself. The solo mode works fine, and you're just exchanging one thing for another. I get a stone to get 2 other workers, and then I get those 2 workers, and I can fill in a square, and I fill in the square, and that gives me a yellow worker, and the yellow worker. It just endlessly sort of chains into this. You start with like 6 things, and you're like, what am I going to do? And by the end of the turn, you've crossed off 20 boxes, and you've unlocked like all these points and stuff like that. So it's just a delightful game. It is multiplayer solitaire, like at its heart. There is no player interaction at all.
It's the only game that I've played with people and have felt lonely
That's right.
during. Like, I felt like I'm ignoring my wife. Is what I felt like. And she's ignoring me.
That's right.
That's how I feel. But it is so good. And every turn starts off with just a big chunk of resources. And so, I love that because often in these heavier Euro games, you kind of get a big set of resources at the beginning. And then every round after that, it's kind of up to you to keep your engine going to do that. But this one, it's just like, okay, new round. Here you go. Have fun. And that just like feels really satisfying. My 93 is another flippin' right.
Okay.
It's not that. It's Trails of Tucana.
Nice.
Yeah, man. I really like Trails of Tucana. This is, again, another Leif Svensson, Mangrovia design here. And so this game... simple flip and right where you're going to flip over 2 terrain types and your map has a bunch of different terrain types on it. And so when you flip over these 2 terrain types, you have to connect 2 adjacent terrains that match these 2 types. So like a forest and a mountain or a desert and a forest or whatever. And then you find 2 adjacent spaces, you connect them with a little trail. And ultimately what you're trying to do is turn after turn, you're trying to extend your trails so that you get these little symbols like artifacts, like there's an obelisk, there's a toucan, you're trying to draw a trail from them to a port, and then you'll be able to score points that way. Or you're trying to connect 2 of the same lettered ports. So the A port to the A port and the B port to the B port, and they're normally like quite a ways away from each other around the map. And so you're just trying to do that in the most efficient way possible. I'm terrible at this game. I'm the least efficient person playing this game. It is incredibly frustrating to see how well some people can do at this game, but I just love it. Like, I just love that simple forest, sand, yes, okay, or, oh, but it's really good. So Trails of Tucana is my 93.
It's a game where I didn't think you could wait so long just to find, like, because you flip over 2 terrain cards, it's like a forest and a plains or something, and I've never had to wait so long waiting for a forest and plains to come up. Like, there's only so many options. But when you need a trail, when you need one line, you will spend the whole game waiting for that one line to show up.
That's right. It's something I always forget to point out to players is that right on your player sheet, it indicates how many cards of each terrain type there is in the deck. And I always forget to say, oh, this might be helpful for you to know. Because I never pay attention to it.
Very good.
What's your 93?
My 93 is a game that is largely unfair, and that's because it's unfair.
Wow! Have you played Funfair?
I have not played Funfair.
Okay, I'm interested to play that, see where that goes.
So, yeah, Funfair is essentially, as far as I understand it, just a re-implementation of Unfair.
But nice.
But nicer, yeah. Unfair has, there's a whole part of it's just a card drafting game, and then you're building an amusement park, and so you're creating like restaurants and roller coasters, and you're adding different like abilities to them, and you're trying to create this kind of themed wonderland, and it is unfair. There are certain cards that, like, when you have a really big roller coaster and that's scoring you like a ton of points, and somebody comes along and they just play a card and that closes your roller coaster for a round, that sucks. Like, it does, but if you don't mind that, and I don't, I like Guillotine, I'm okay with a game that just says, like, you know what, everything is going to be random. You never know what you're going to get.
Mess and be messed with.
Yeah, and so if you're okay with that, it's fine. I love the theme. I think like one of the first like video games I ever really got into was like Roller Coaster Tycoon. So like the idea of building an amusement park has just always been fascinating to me, and so the art, the style of it, that just hits a sweet spot with me. I don't mind that it's unfair. And even if you have unfair, you can make it more fair. Like, you can remove that aspect of the game. But if you want to do that, just buy Funfair. Yeah, it's a great game.
That's awesome. I was turned off by the sounds of this game initially because the initial reviews said things like it was kind of swingy, a little unfair. And so when Funfair came out, I was really excited to play the game, but in a little maybe more calculated, nicer way. But I'm still open to trying both of them. My 92, Takenoko.
Oh!
Yeah, man. Is this going to show up later for you?
It might.
Okay, let's see. So, yeah, Takenoko, like, this is funny. Like, a lot of my list really trends light medium, like family games and medium weight games. And this is definitely that family weight game of choice for me. Like I have a few others I'd like to go to, but this is a real big go-to for me when I'm introducing to new players. It stood the test of time. I feel like it's accessible. The rules are fairly easy to understand, but it gives enough variety in the things that you're trying to do. You're trying to move the panda around to eat bamboo. You're trying to move the farmer around to grow bamboo. You're trying to just collect different types of bamboo entirely. There's just different kinds of scoring cards that you're wanting to do. You know, feed the panda, grow the bamboo, and these kinds of things. But they're kind of competing,
Right.
and you're also trying to do all of them. So it's not like I'm just trying to feed the panda, or you're just trying to be the farmer, or like I'm just trying to hydrate the ground in these different patterns and things. That's probably the most annoying part of the game,
Right.
is getting these different shapes of the terrain types. But I just really like this game for being like, okay, have at it. Try to accomplish some simple goals while other people are trying to do the same thing. And so they're inadvertently screwing up what you're trying to do. You're inadvertently screwing up what they're trying to do. You're just trying to make it work. And I think the thing that makes the game sing for me, or brings that factor where it's not just tedious, is the die roll at the beginning of your round, where you get a nice little special ability where you can, move the panda kind of anywhere on the board, because otherwise you're having to move it in a straight line from where it's from. But then you can kind of like move it and put where you want, or you can like grow bamboo double. And so the die mechanic at the beginning of your round makes it so that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish after everyone else has screwed up what you were trying to accomplish. Rolling the right thing with the die allows you to make up for what was already messed up. And so I like that they work that in there. This is an Antoine Bauza fairly early design that is really great. So Takenoko, still on my list.
Sure. Yes, it has great table presence. It looks good.
So good.
The theme is very approachable. Like, even non-gamers will be like, oh, I get to move a cute little panda around the board. That's delightful. I get to grow bamboo. Who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah.
My 92 is a game that has fallen, maybe next year might not even be in my top 100, but that's not because it's not good, but that's Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
Oh, that makes sense.
And basically just because, like, I think the first year that I played this game, it was like 16 on like my top 100. But kind of as I'm going through the top 100 and I'm looking at the games, I'm like, kind of my decision-making process was like, if somebody presented me with this game right now, would I want to play it? And because I've already made it through the campaign, like, I'm like, I don't really want to play this game right now, but like, it still has amazing memories for me. This game, I like story in my games. I like theme. I like to kind of imagine myself. And really, like, throughout Pandemic Legacy, I imagined myself in this world. I placed myself. I was Debbie, the scientist. And like, we had whole storylines built around these characters that eventually developed, where Debbie developed PTSD, and she ended up with this like
Dramatic.
chronic, condition. But I mean, it was amazing. And somebody else had a fear of helicopters, and I mean, just like these kind of crazy situations. But anyways, Pandemic Legacy, I really enjoyed it. It will always stay dear to my heart, even if it's no longer on my top 100.
Okay. See, it was on my shelf in shrink for a long time, and I just never got it to the table. I just couldn't bring myself to commit to 12 to 14, whatever games of it. But I kind of regret it because people say a lot of amazing things.
It's a great game.
About the game. All right, folks. So this is our last game for this list each, our 91. And then you're going to click on another video, we hope, to watch our next 10 best games of all time. But to close off this show, 91, Builders Middle Ages.
What? I've never even heard of this game.
So this is another hidden gem, just a beautiful little card game where you have these constructions out on the board, and they're kind of these unbuilt buildings that require a certain set of resources to build, and they're going to earn you some victory points for doing that. And then you have another row of cards that is your workers, and they're these workers on a card, and on the side of the card there's the different types of resources that are required in the game. And then there's some like green bars that indicate how many of that type of resource that worker brings to the table. And so a worker might have a gold, a steel, and 2 wood. For an action, I should say, you're going to just take construction to put in your play area that you're going to work on. But then you have to pay a certain amount of coins to hire these workers in your play area. But it's kind of a little bit of this engine builder where you kind of get to keep these workers after a while. But some workers might do really well for a construction that you were working on, but they no longer do well for the next construction that you picked to work on. So you really got to like synergize the workers you have with the constructions that you're trying to build. The thing that elevates this game for me is that you have 3 actions to work with on a turn. So taking construction is an action, recruiting a worker is an action, but then you're going to want to do more things, and so you can pay more money to do more actions, but they get exponentially more expensive if you're buying actions in the same turn. And applying workers to a construction in the same turn takes more actions. So placing a worker to a construction is 1 action. Placing a second worker to a construction is 2 actions. So that's all 3 of your actions in that turn. And so then you want to pay for more actions.
Right.
And so, sorry, it's not the actions that get more expensive. It's like how many actions in a turn it requires to place a worker that gets more expensive. And so you're going to want to pay for more actions if you can, but money's pretty tight. But then you might build a construction that gives you a windfall of money or that kind of thing. And then it's just a race to a certain amount of victory points. And you're playing for 20, 25 minutes.
Okay. Is this an old game?
Yeah, it's old. It's like 2012.
Okay. I've never even heard of this.
Yeah, well, hey, tonight, maybe we can do it.
For sure.
How are you bringing us home?
We very nearly had a double crossover right at the moment. This is Takenoko. One
so
space
close.
off. Takenoko is a delightfully simple game.
Do we do a crossover dance on it?
I'll have to drop kick you later on.
Yeah, okay. So close. A half drop kick, just one leg.
You're right. It's very delightful. It goes over well with all age groups. I mean, like family weight style game. Looks great. Even the story's kind of, I don't know, I find it funny. It's like the
rule book's a comic book.
Right, and like the Emperor of Japan was given this panda from China, but he can't he doesn't want it to destroy his bamboo gardens because he really likes bamboo, but he doesn't want to offend the Chinese emperor, so he has to keep this panda alive and happy. And so this gardener's fuming to try and grow these plants while the panda's eating them. It's a silly game, but I don't know. Even that story just thrills me.
Yeah, it makes for a great game.
For sure.
So good. So, party people, let us know what you think of our list so far. Let us know if we're out to lunch and crazy for having these games. Tell us whose list you like better so far. Pit us against each other. Make us hate each other by the end of this top 100 games list. And so, party people, thank you for being with us. If you like this content, if you like hearing us just banter about all sorts of games, hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, party people, have the best day.